opportunity spelled right? I think so. I think we're good. Well, I'm Drew Wash. This is Domain to Profit. And wowzers, there's a lot of opportunities going to be presenting themselves to you over the course of the next hour. So if you're joining me live, you'll see them first. And in some cases, as you probably are aware, some of these opportunities that we see here on Domain to Profit are done by the end of the show. They expire, they're gone. So watch live if you're watching this on Restream. And if you are watching this on Restream, we welcome you. We are live 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we want you here live. Join the community that gathers together, domain developers that, like you, are looking for those opportunities, looking for those great domain names that you can take and turn into some cool project. Could be just like for a hobby, just to create something great, or it could be to make money, to make your dreams come true, to create something that pays your bills, that can create a passive income. Anybody like passive income out there? I like passive income. Most of what I do is I try to work hard once and then set up something to pay me over time. So, the opportunities we're going to talk about today are going to be expiring domains, just like we do each week. And what is an expiring domain? Expiring domain name is a domain name that somebody like me, like you, we got it from GoDaddy, got it registered at some point. We're like, oh, we got a great idea. We're going to build something on this someday. And then we forget about it, let it go, and never actually build anything on it. Next thing you know, we forget about the domain name or in some way let it expire. And then it comes up for auction through expired domain names. So I'm going to show you, as I do each week, how you can look to these expired domain names and find the opportunities. And we're going to actually look at each of these different domain names as we discover them together and talk about business possibilities that we can do with it, whether it's major business. Some domains, can generate millions. Other domains, what would an extra $1,000 a month do for you? Because some of them, that's what they can do. So, all righty. Well, say hi in the chat. If you have not already, let the community know you are here, that you are ready for some domain development. I'm Drew Wash's Domain to Profit. See you on the other side of this.
From domain to profit, from a .com to a business idea. Take a domain name, develop an income from domain to profit. We'll show you how. Domain to profit, from domain to profit. Join Drew Wash and get started right now.
Get started right now. Indeed, that is what we are going to do. Just want to hop over to the chat to say hi to my peeps. Indeed, Chaz, Coaster G, let's do this. Ian, nice to have you here. Michael, nice to see you continuing to join. I appreciate that. And Lee as well. Thank you, everybody, for saying hi. That group especially, regular crowd. So lots of good stuff that come out of them. Lee, I've seen several different projects he's done. I've reached out to him for some project and some advice and input on setting up some of the future things that we want to do, which all revolve around turning domain names into businesses, right? Turning domain names into stuff that actually brings value to the world instead of having the domain name sit in your portfolio gathering digital dust. What would that be? Digital dust? I got nothing. Kimberly, nice to see you as well. D to the P time. Okay. If you cannot tell, which hopefully you can't tell completely, I am in working on a new studio here. In fact, I probably can't show you too terribly much. I meant to take a photo before the show. I'll try to I'll grab one and post it after the show. I have a little room here. I'm looking around it. It's a small office that I've turned into a new studio. So why a new studio? Because I wanted to get away from the open office that I was upstairs. That way I can really have a place to focus on and ideate. Does that make me sound smart? Ideate? Yeah, there we go. But I need an IDF space. And this idea space here is shared with you as we talk about expired domains, which is what we are absolutely going to be doing as well. Hugh, nice to have you, buddy. Thanks for joining us. We are going to, well, let's get to some domain names. So here's one of the fancy things. A lot to do with the office to get the audio set up correctly. So no bells and whistles, no tricks today, just the basics. But here we go. This is fancy though. We got the green screen. So as you may or may not be aware, hopefully you are aware because you've been here on Domain to Profit so often. This is expireddomains.net. Expireddomains.net, the free website that somebody out in Germany put together for all of us to be able to use. They did all this extra work just to be able to like grab all the expiring domains from here, all of them from here, and they brought them all together into this one site that allows us to search through like millions of expiring domain names to find the best opportunities for you. So you would think that I'm their salesperson. I am not. I just love the product, and there's no cost. It's free to you as well. So set up a free user account, especially if you want to go into dark mode, which is where I am currently. And we're going to spend our time here in the marketplace domains. Let me see if I can zoom in. I believe I can. There we go. So we're going to the marketplace domains tab, and then we're going to spend our time here at the GoDaddy expired domains over here as well. So that's where you'll want to navigate to, is the GoDaddy expired domain name. That's what we have over here. And we're just going to pretty much set up some filters right over here. I love this. This is fun. We're going to set up some filters that we use each week that allow us to have the best opportunity at finding a domain name that is good for development, good for building out a business. So to do that, we're going to go over here, set up our filters. And to do that, we're going to set up no numbers, no hyphens, and we are going to set up English words 1 to 3. You can alter these based on your experience. My experience says these are some pretty darn good filters. I welcome others, and we go over to the additional tab, hit .com. We only concentrate on .com domain names 99.99% of the time. Every once in a while, I'll allow a .org to slide in, but for the most part, we stick to .coms. Why? Well, because whether you have a .org, .net, any other extension on a domain name, you're always going to want the .com. Like, if you build up some great business on some .io or .xyz or anything like that, you're always going to be wishing that you owned the .com. And you know, if you get something successful and you're growing on .io, you better believe the price tag of that .com is going to be going up. So why start off with like a success debt? That's essentially what happens, right? You're creating debt because if you're successful, you're going to have to pay out more money in the future for the .com. I don't know, why do that? Why do that when we can just go here, select .com, and just concentrate on the .com domain names? There are exceptions that we would want to consider, mostly if we do not want domain names. What consideration would we have for .coms? What are the exceptions? There's not many. There's not many exceptions, to be quite honest. You're always the exception would be if you're just looking for a blog or something that's really not going to be about the domain name, which we don't talk a lot about here. So there you go. That's going to be one of the things. So let me get this set up. I'm going to zoom in. So all those filters that we just put together come together to take this list down from, I did not see what it was prior to, but it's usually hundreds of thousands of domain names over on GoDaddy's expiring domain name auctions. Hundreds of thousands taken down to 55,000 that meet our criteria. And we won't even get any through, we'll get through, 300 of them, 400 of them in the course of this period. So there's plenty to look through following the show as well. Let's make sure we are ordered by the valuation over here, which we are. Valuation is GoDaddy's. They use some data and they come up with an idea of a valuation. We don't care about the valuation. We don't really, it's a fictional number as far as we're concerned, but what we do is we order by it. So we use that fictional number to try to bring the best ones to the top, which you'll see we skip over most of these. GoDaddy thinks they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars. We just pass them over because we are looking specifically for domain names that are an opportunity for you, opportunity for me, for us as a community. So we'll dive into it. I believe we talked about Job Matcher a little bit last week. We're going to click on that, open that up. That one ends tomorrow, jobmatcher.com, currently $1,333 over on GoDaddy, as you can see over here. So jobmatcher.com, what could you do with it? One of the things I love to have on a domain name is a domain name that says exactly what we expect to find on it. Big companies like McDonald's, you name it, any big company out there, they have these marketing budgets that are just like hundreds of millions of dollars, and they pay all that money so that way you know what to expect from them. That's what they're doing. They're paying all that money so you know you can show up at McDonald's and get a certain type of food in a certain time frame. That is their brand. That is what they are paying you to understand. Well, the beauty of domain names and the domain names that we're specifically looking for are the domains that are going to be best for development are going to be the domains that they already have that brand established just by the domain name itself. What do you expect to find on jobmatcher.com? Yeah, I'd expect to find a website that matches me to a job in some way. Okay, so that's what we talk about. Jobmatcher.com, $1,333. Let's see if anybody searches for it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of research onto Job Matcher. We're going to see if anybody actually searches for this. We might have spent a little time on this domain name last week, knowing that it was going to expire so close to this show. 510 monthly searches is what we have over here. And that's these people here are looking specifically Job Matcher. What the heck is a Job Matcher? We don't know. It's a little bit of a brand. My Job Matcher, Caller Matcher Jobs. Okay, we're going to look down here, scroll down a little bit more. And what we're going to find in this area of SpyFu, which is a website we're on currently, SpyFu, we're just using the free version. So this is free to you. This is great data that's going to be able to help you out. Right over here right now, you're going to find that there's no advertisers. There's nobody paying. Of those 510 searches, nobody's actually paying to reach that audience. Not necessarily what we want to see, even though it does give us some cost per click data. We want to see people paying to advertise on this domain name or for this keyword, not the domain name, the keyword. But then as the owner of the domain name, we can then take that and kind of convert it into a little bit of revenue for ourselves. Jobmatcher.com, I would expect this to be a job board that helps you match your skills, your personality to jobs, right? I think there's a lot of sites out there that think they do this. I think the big guys, Indeed, Monster, I think they're still a thing. Most of the job boards realistically are job postings from a bunch of companies. They don't put a ton of matching in other than keyword search, right? Well, maybe you get jobmatcher.com, do a job board, do the normal job postings and things, but then maybe help your visitors do a little more of a match as far as, like eHarmony. eHarmony, they use algorithms to match you with your perfect mate or whatever. Well, Job Matcher, we use algorithms, some AI stuff to match you to the perfect job for you. Does that have to be complicated? Well, it can be as complicated as, yes, literally using machine learning and tossing a bunch of stuff together, or it can be as simple as just a jobs board where you have a mission that's outside of just a simple jobs board. Maybe your mission is, hey, don't just match based on the job you think you want, based on the most money possible. Instead, match your job based on your mission, your values, and just take it a little deeper. I like it. I like the domain name. The price is a little bit high, and I mean, it's appropriately priced. I'm not going to bid on it. So if it's for you, then so be it. There's just so much you can do with it. Fundamentally, fun domain name, investable, and we're going to start to page down. If I could figure out my laptop here. Okay. Ownable. That's interesting. Interesting keyword. CharityDonation.com. It's a really long way to say that, but you could do something like a GoFundMe. I don't like it, but you could do like a GoFundMe, charity donation tool. I think those are pretty overdone, but you can always certainly do it. So what we end up doing is looking through a lot of domain names. And as you can imagine, when we're looking through hundreds of thousands of domain names, filtering them down to 55,000, we're going to be looking through. There's a lot of dead time. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't matter to us. And one of the things I try to do is pull out some lessons as to how you can look at this list, and not fall for some of the tricks that, some of the mistakes that others make, including me. So we'll see if we find any. Andrew West shared a lot of characteristics, a lot of characters with me in the domain name, or in name. Andrew Wash, Andrew West. Player cards, prayer cards. That can be a product. I could see that. The only thing is you probably have to be pretty passionate about doing it prior to finding the domain name. But if you've always wanted, if maybe you're somebody that's like my wife, for example, Crystal, she does Bible verses on Post-it notes, and she has them in various places around the house. And so when it comes down to the idea of prayer cards, maybe instead of it being Post-it notes, they're little fancier cards that you can put around your house or something. Maybe, let's see. We'll look at the domain name. I avoid product domain names quite a bit. But let's see. Sorry, I just wanted to reopen that tab. So that one ends in 6 days. Prayercards.com, $155 currently. If you're interested in creating prayer cards to sell, there you go. You can mess with that. I'm not going to dive into it. That seems a little bit too much of a brandable versus, well, actually, here's what we'll do. As you're familiar with, there might be a thing. Yeah, see, this is what you got to type it in. If you think it's something, chances are it could be something. In this case, I didn't think this would have any keyword data, but I went against what I thought. So here we go. Prayercards.com, 3,200 monthly searches. As you saw from the last domain name we talked about, Job Matcher, significantly more search traffic. The higher, the better is what we're looking for. 3,000 or so is a pretty good number of searches, especially when it's exact match to the keyword of the domain name. Prayer cards for funerals, Our Lady's Mission. So what we look for on this page is we use this similar keyword area to get an idea of, for example, what are some of the other searches that our keyword, that our domain name has to do with. In this case, we see prayer cards for funerals. So that's more of like specific to those cards when you go to a funeral, and there's some there that have a prayer on one side, usually the information about the person that died on the other side. That's a weird flex to own that industry, but sure, why not? Then over here on this side, how to make a prayer card. So what I love about questions, and let me step over here so you can actually see these. The questions, what they allow us to do is see what people are searching for, what questions they have, and those questions we can look at answering on our website. So I don't know anything about prayer cards. I don't know what content I would put on there, but this section over here is essentially telling us what content we can what questions we can answer in order to be helpful, right? So people are searching for 165 times a month how to make prayer card. You go research that, you put together a tutorial format, maybe some templates, things like that, and voila, you have useful content for your website, which is one of the things I love about the question section. And then let's go see if there's any money to be made. And yes, there are. Here we go. Cost per click, $1. And then we love to see double digits under advertisers. So let me go check on chat to see if does anybody have any clue what the heck a prayer card is? Like I kind of expected people to be like, oh yeah, prayer cards, they're this. I'm not going to Google it, but obviously there's something there. I'm guessing it's a printed type thing, customizable. So maybe you're a printer or something and want to be the king of prayer cards. Regardless, there's a lot of people paying to reach this traffic, and this is what we like to see, because when it's double digits, our business play is we're just looking for 2 or 3 of those advertisers, right? They're already paying, they're already trying to reach this specific audience, and now we can go to them and say, hey, you're already targeting prayer cards as a keyword. Well, we are prayercards.com, and we would love to feature your company on there as one of the companies that provides a solution for prayer cards. You don't have to make prayer cards. You don't have to know anything about them, do much with it. All you are doing is going to the people that are already paying, already in this industry, and you are setting up a solution to allow them to provide value to the people that use your domain name and the website you place on it. Make sense? And then they pay for that. They're making money from that. Therefore, you're just taking just a little taste, just a little taste. A monthly fee, $100 a month or something. To be on prayercards.com and reach the audience and have a great domain name. So there you go. That's what we're looking for. $133 is what that one was. And we will move on. Classic trailers. Tutor Today. Tutor Today. Not bad. I'm always looking for a tutor type website. Not Tutor Today. I probably prefer My Tutor or something like that. Auction Media, hotasiangirls.com for those who are into those domains. Not my thing. My top best reviews. Limo Book. What do you expect to find on that? Book a limo. I would prefer to have the action domain name versus Limo Book. An option. Okay. Diving back down through this wholesale liquid. Down here. Office robots. I don't know why that cracks me up, but that does. It cracks me up. And if you, by chance, see something in the domain name list that you think I skipped over and should have talked about, feel free to call it out in chat, unless you're trying to hide it and just happy that I went by it. I know that happens as well. Binding services, not bad. I think do people still, there are binding service places, essentially bookmakers and things. Not going to, what do we think? Oh, let's go dive into it. Let's go look at binding services. Bindingservices.com, and we'll use this as an opportunity to start up a 3-minute business plan. Here we go, bindingservices.com, very specific service. We're going to go over to SpyFu. So what I got is on the clock, 3 minutes. And the idea is we're going to do all of our research, come up with a business plan, and do all of it within 3 minutes for bindingservices.com. So bindingservices.com is a keyword that is by itself only has 440 monthly searches. But what I love to see is over here, we see these different these different keyword groups that include our domain name. That's what we want to see. We want to see book binding services, because essentially binding services is a shorter version of bookbinding services. So you can have an entire website about bookbinding services that would reach 2,600 monthly searches, but you own bindingservices.com, right? Does that make sense? So you can have on bindingservices.com book binding, pamphlet binding, printing and binder services near me, which is where I'm going to take this business plan, is finding local binding services, finding binding services near you. Let's see if there's any advertisers. We have a couple advertisers paying a couple bucks per click. I'd like to see a larger number of advertisers reaching it. But it does give us, there are people paying to reach this keyword. Let's see if we have any good keyword, any starter searches. No, not really seeing, can a contract be binding? Okay, so not really seeing any good questions over on the side, but I do like to see that these here, printing and binding services near me, boom, bindingservices.com, book binding service, bindingservices.com. So what we will do on bindingservices.com, as we wrap up this 1 minute here, let me step over here so you can actually read that. We build a website that is a towing.com type directory. We show the binding services near you and also allow it to expand out to essentially infinite distance. So that way we're looking for a dozen binding service companies to be listed in our directory. A dozen companies, maybe 10 companies, 10 to 12 companies that are paying us what, maybe $100 a month. They show up based on, featured, and then $100 a month. Like if you're closest, you show up on top. Otherwise, it's based on maybe they pay you more to be up on top, whatever it is. Anyhow, if you can get 10 of them paying you $100 a month, you got $1,000 a month just for listing out binding services, helping them benefit from such a great domain name. And all you've done is develop simply that domain name. $1,000 a month type domain. What do you think? I think it is. I fall for that. Okay, 3 minutes up, 3 minutes up, 3 minutes down. $1,000 a month type domain name. How would you develop it? What would you do with bindingservices.com? I guess I should have possibly clicked on that to make sure that domain name is actually up for auction. So that ends tomorrow. Currently only $12, which bidding strategy, whenever I see this, as you know probably by now, do not bid on the domain name until like 5 minutes left in the auction. So you want to hold off, just add it to your watch list, and then come back to it after the fact. Because otherwise you're going to alert other people like, hey, this domain name has some bidding, and more people start to pay attention to it. You will be bidding against other people for that domain name. I expect that it will go for a few $100s. But if you're willing to build out that basic kind of business idea that we talked about, probably get up to about $1,000 a month. Can you find 10 binding services? Okay, let's say you fall short. Can you find 3? $300 a month? Like forever? Like when the internet stops being a thing? Why don't they just go to Google, you might be asking. Well, they can go to Google as well, but bindingservices.com, great domain name. And we want to compete with Google. Google's not the best. Forget Google. They have Google's best interest at heart. So what do you think? Let me make sure I'm getting over to chat. And yes, I agree on we need some office robots. I need office robots for sure. Never heard of prayer cards. More searches than exactly. I agree. That is why I type stuff into into SpyFu. Like my gut says, pass up on this, keep moving. But then once I think that, it ends up being something like, so there we go. Yeah, prayer cards is worthy of a bid. I mean, that with that kind of search volume, especially if you were a printing company, certainly worth, if you were a printing company and you could print them, then why not go for that niche? Okay. back over to expireddomains.net, where we continue to look down at, we're only on page 1, right? Not bad. Bestmanicure.com, a nice little review rating top site. This would be the same kind of thing that we did with bindingservices.com. Okay, this one's actually within the last 4 minutes. So this is why you'd have to watch live. If this domain name was something you're like, bestmanicure.com, which is an excellent domain name, what do you expect to find there? Well, I expect to find a list of the best manicures that are available, or, nail salons and things like that. You'd be surprised. Now we have a 3-minute business plan, but it's actually based on the auction expiring. Best manicure. So you could target this one here, right here. 2,200 keywords, 460 for the exact match. 56. No advertisers, which I find interesting. Cost per click is a little bit on the low side, but there are certainly hundreds of people, if not thousands, looking for the best manicure near them and things like that. That means that you could build that local directory, charge as cheap as you want to, find 300 companies. That would be one company in the top 300 cities in the United States. Top 300 cities have over 100,000 people in them. So you just need one business to step up per major city. One business, that's 300 companies. Can you get 300 companies if they're in these major cities? Absolutely. One company is going to step up and be willing to say, like, hey, I want to be the best manicure. And that gives you your first 300. So $300, $10 a pop, you could do and make that would be $3,000 a month. Or if you can go for more, then go for it. But that would be for bestmanicure.com. Currently at 413. Well, we just talked about implementing the local Legion 300 as being an opportunity to get your first 300 customers. I'm trying to decide. I don't know. What do we think? I think I'm going to go ahead and place a bid. Now I have to log into GoDaddy, so give me 1 second, because you'd think I've been doing this show long enough that I would have. Oh my dear goodness. I love GoDaddy. They're fantastic. Okay, now we're back here, so let me pull this back up. 1 minute 30. So we're breaking my rules here a little bit, because what's going to happen, and here's why I tell you to make sure to bid at 5 minutes. Right now, it's 1 minute left. So this person, hopefully it's not one of you. Let me check chat real quick just to make sure it's not. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody saying, no, that's me, Drew, or anything like that, which is good. So now once we take a bid here, and say we take this up to 580, once we place this bid, now look what it did. It added 5 minutes to that auction. So now we're drawing attention, everybody's being notified, and more people are paying attention to this auction. Now they have 5 minutes to get involved. So it's not, what ends up happening a lot of times is it's not just me versus the original bidder, right? Like you would think that, oh, I just outbid somebody, so it's going to be me and them bidding each other up. No, you'll actually find a lot of times when you bid within 5 minutes, it draws that attention. And instead of just like this area here, which let me see if I'm blocking it. I want to show you this section here. This section here shows you the bid history for this domain name. And currently, yes, I'm up in top, so don't bid me up if you're around. But what you'll find here is bidder number 4 came in and bid. So you would think that they're going to be the one that bids me up if they came in. But a lot of times it is not that. It would be a different bidder that's like, ooh, that's actually a good domain name, and I want to get involved in that. So we'll see what ends up happening. We'll come back to that here in a couple minutes. So that's bestmanicure.com. That's pretty much how it works. And if you wanted it more, then go get it. I may end up increasing. I'm trying to make decisions as I do a live show. It's a little bit tough. I like it. I have a few different domain names in that beauty type space. So I'm always kind of looking for domain names that give me more of what I call a beachhead. So that idea of, you can't take over an entire industry unless you have the best domain name possible. But what you can do is kind of choose little niches, these little specific places, and you make your attack on that beachhead. You take that one beachhead, and from there, you can bring your forces in to try to take over additional space in that industry. So it's a beachhead type move is what that is when you look for specific niches. So would I much rather own any number of different manicure-related domain names? Yeah, I'd much rather own manicure, manicures.com, both those probably six-figure domain names, topmanicures.com, bestmanicures with an F.com even. There's all kinds of different domain names that would be great domains. The more possible domain names there are, the lower you have to make sure you bid, because you have to go look for those other solutions. And with that said, I definitely would not bid any more than what I have already. I was thinking about going up to like an 888, but which if you do, it could still, we just talked about it. 300 companies, $10 a month, $3,000 a month. Is it worth it to have a domain name that can develop that way? Just all you're doing is showing the top manicure, the best manicure in any specific area as featured on bestmanicure.com. Would they pay $10 a month to do that? One company per the top 300 cities in the US. I believe the answer is yes. There's a lot of work to find those 300 companies, to get their attention, to convince them that domain names matter just a little bit to their business, to be able to say, hey, I'm the bestmanicure.com as listed and featured on bestmanicure.com. Does that provide them $10 in value a month? To me, the answer is 100% down. Yes. I mean, people pay a lot of money to join Chamber of Commerce's, join the Better Business Bureau for what? To have a little icon that says BBB approved, or we're a member of Chamber. Nobody gives a crap about that stuff, but a lot of businesses, small businesses, pay hundreds of dollars a year just to have that, just to be like, oh, wouldn't you be much better off to be on bestmanicure.com? Like, I think the answer is yes. Then again, it's I might be a little biased. So yeah, so there you go, Kimberly. Feel free to beat me out on it. If anybody there's never any. If I ever do a bid, as long as you're going to bid me out and don't just bid like $1 underneath me or something, because that's always that's a punk move when people do that stuff. You literally see what I'm bidding. Don't bid. I mean, you can. All it's going to do is make me stop doing live bids. But anyhow, makeupman.com. That's not bad. I'm going to probably skip over it, but I'm getting like Makeup Man, like it's a brand. I'm sure somebody out there is like that. Fake Ray-Bans. At least they're honest about being fake. Can match, self-disruption. Okay, now we're finally down to the bottom of this page. So there we go. There's one page. We usually get through 2 or 3 pages of domain names. Creativity Collective. I kind of like that domain name. So that's pretty much how this works. We look through the domain names. We will come right back over to those here in just one moment and check out some of those domain names. So what do you think so far? You find any, trying to look, checking out stats, checking out the chat. Darcy's talking about the prayercards.com. They're selling for $1.25. I wonder what that is, but prayercards.com. Now, if it's per prayer card or something, I don't know. There's so much you can do with that. Think of it as like that beachhead type front. Like, yeah, it may be $1.25 for one of something, but if that gives you an opportunity to sell some other service, prayercards.com might be something like that top of the funnel where your goal is just to kind of break even, but you're finding and identifying your customers that you will make money from down the road. What would that look like? You sell prayer cards at essentially break even or even a loss for $1.25 each. But then maybe you sell one of the things that I don't know. I'm not sure. Funeral services even, right? Oh, anyhow, there you go. Prayer cards. They may be cheap, but there's a reason people make a living off them for sure. And as I said, Kimberly loving on Best Manicure, which is nice. Kimberly, I have to mention sometime what your niche is. I can always add it. Although, actually, don't mention it in the chat. I know that we're a secretive bunch. We don't want to pass too much. So let's head back over and dive into domain names. And I agree. Like, I'll just say this: having a niche is an important piece of being a focused domain developer, domain investor. You can't go learning about every industry. Just like Darcy was diving into and getting us that information on prayer cards. Could you imagine if every single domain name you bought, you had to go do a bunch of research into that specific industry? I get it, but I don't want to do that. That sounds, if you basically will spend a lot more time researching and buying domain names rather than developing in them and using them to make revenue, right? Which I know a lot of us, it's so much more fun to spend money than to make money. We all want to make money, but I will tell you that just, in that NFT world, the crypto world that is kind of crashing right now, it's so much like the idea of spending money and just making more money magically in some way is so enticing. And it seems like it's fun, but it's not fulfilling. It's not going to be fulfilling. Only through creation do we really get the fulfillment of what we're doing. Only through developing a domain name or painting or creating something. And if all we're doing is buying and selling, you've heard me say this numerous times, just building money, building wealth. There's a reason, like it just create. It's the destination is happiness, whatever the heck that means. You will be happier if you're creating. Just buying domain names thinking that someday you're going to create them, all that does is create anxiety, right? How many of us, I know it doesn't me. I have an amazing portfolio of domain names, and I always plan on developing them, but realistically, I have just a few of them developed. And that the anxiety and the reminder that I have so much more to do, it just creates an anxiousness in me. Like I get frustrated with myself, the idea that, hey, you have all these domain names, but you're not doing anything with them. All this opportunity sitting here, and instead you're freaking buying some JPEG on some NFT collection or this or that. Like, even if that makes money, it doesn't, like, long story short, I know what I need to do, which is spending time developing, creating, getting the domain names out of my portfolio. And you do too. We're in the same boat. We can't just sit back and hope that good things are going to happen, or think that we can buy things that are going to make us happy or that are going to make us wealthy. We have to create it. We have to create that value ourselves. I am a huge advocate for that. Hopefully you know that about me, but I want that for you as well. I want you to, has anybody, have you experienced that? Is anybody like, I wish I could see kind of like raised hands here. Let me switch over to this one. But I'm kind of curious, like, has anybody made money? Have you made money from the internet before? By that, I mean, have you sold a product online? You have a website that you sold and made money on. For me, I first made money from, I sold spy software back in college. And I put up a website, and I found some stuff on a website, I think called clickbank.com. And I made like 30% whenever I sold something. I put up this website and I worked on SEO to get stuff out there. Long story short, that first time that somebody found my website and purchased software and I made like $5 or something. The fact that something I created made $5 changed my life. It changed my life, and it could change yours as well. Like, that is why we're here looking through these domain names and these opportunities. It's to change, it's to experience that transition, that life change transition that can happen when you create something and somebody out there exchanges value because of your creation. It is life changing, and it is so much better than making money through the stock market or NFTs or anything like that. That stuff's fun, but it's entertaining. It's not like, but that's just my opinion. I mean, people have their other opinions, and don't get me wrong, I make money on all those things too, but oh my goodness, when somebody decides to pay me for something I've created, like I took it from here, created the website, and now somebody's paying me consistently, it's really good for the ego, I guess you could say. It's good for the fulfillment, the feeling that life truly is, I'm living a good life. And I want that for you. I want that for you. The money becomes a side project. It becomes a side effect of a happy life. Would you like to have a life where you feel so fulfilled, and the money is a side effect of it? Like, I believe you do. I know I do, and I'm very happy when I have it. So, okay, let me check in with chat here. I see a few things coming in. Drew, love the videos. Have you ever found a decent domain name in the deleted section without bidding on expired domains at all? Yeah, I find domain names all the time. I actually thought about looking through them. Maybe we can do that just after this. In fact, they're a domain name that we mentioned last week, which was toptruckingcompanies.com, I believe. Toptruckingcompanies.com expired last week and then went through the closeout section of GoDaddy. And I believe it's available. You can go hand reg it right now. I believe toptruckingcompanies.com is exactly the business model we talked about for some of these other ones. And what are you going to put on it? You're going to create a list of featured top trucking companies. Hopefully you can, get a dozen or more to be featured on the site for some amount of money. Voila, micro income. So here we go. I'm going to share this out. Hopefully this is cool. It's in the chat. Darcy's responding to that one. I've built websites on expired domains, bought it for $11 for backlinks. So bought the domain name for the backlinks, and the URL, super ugly. 3-4 years ago is when this happened. Unlikely to find a good domain name now unless it's dropping. So basically saying it can work both ways, which is true. Like, a lot of people don't look at expired domains because essentially a lot of times the domain names you're going to be against bots. You're going to lose more domain auctions than win. When you see a domain name that you are interested in, you want to do a calculation in your brain and come up with your max bid and kind of bid it and forget it. And just understand you're going to lose 80% of the times. Don't fall for that ego that happens in your auctions. I do it. I know, I mess up in my auctions a lot of times because I know that I can spend more than many. And I will let my ego get in the way and start to bid too high for a domain name, talking myself into it. Because, of course, well, maybe you know this, but we make our decisions emotionally, and then we back it up with logic. Maybe you've heard that if you've been in marketing or something. It's true. You may think you're a logical person. I am extremely logical. I'm an extremely logical person, but I 100% make emotional decisions and then back it up with logic. So make sure before you get into the emotional situation of an auction that you've done the logic and then stick to it. So There you go. I don't know exactly. I wouldn't even know. Like, I thought about like going to get a job at like Starbucks or something just to be able to talk to people in the real world, because well, for the most part, it's me, you, a camera, the internet. I don't interact much with real people in real life other than at trade shows and stuff, which is part of why I do them, just so I can go see actual people and have conversations. So there we go. Let's go look for some more domain names over the last couple minutes here. So let's pull back up. So let me just show you this real quick. Share out my screens. Up at the top, based on the one question, you can come in here and you can search through what GoDaddy calls closeout domain names. Closeout domain names are domain names that went through the expiring process, this auction process, but nobody bid on them. Nobody bid on the domain name, so the domain names are available for sale before they're available for registration. So you can search through those. Now, the thing is you're not going to want to go to the closeout domain names and just look through them. I think that's probably, you're going to trick yourself into buying something you shouldn't. The best way to look through closeout domain names would be to search for your niche. So Kimberly was saying like, hey, Top Manicures is outside of her niche. Well, you search for your niche. You set up these saved searches over here, and you'll see I have saved searches set up for cannabis domains, storage, trucking, towing, and then just some general ones. Set up the specific searches where you're searching through those closeout domain names for the keywords that matter to you. Otherwise, you're going to be looking through hundreds of thousands of domain names that are, you don't want to spend, your time's valuable. Don't spend too terribly much time on it. You're much better off spending your time on developing. Get one, move along. Okay, let's go down real quickly. Let's do a couple page downs. Let's see if we find anything here. College FAQ, college frequently asked questions. I prefer that to have an S at the end. That could be a fun blog type website. A lot of money in that college application process and stuff. It drives me nuts. I actually don't like it. I don't like making money in areas where I feel like if you feel like you're scamming somebody or taking advantage of a market flaw. So the flaw in college application processes is people are broke, don't have money for college, and they need to borrow a lot of money and or find scholarships, right? There's a real need there because they're not prepared for college financially. So what ends up happening is there's all kinds of scams, all kinds of things that are out there where people take that really urgent need and make money. And that, I avoid that like the plague. I probably didn't explain that very well, but college admissions and stuff are one of those areas where I remember when I was looking for college scholarships and stuff, I'm a son of a trucker and grew up in basically I was a poor kid and didn't have any money for college, didn't take high school, it wasn't important enough to me to get good enough grades for scholarships. So I remember the scramble my senior year to figure out how I was going to pay for college. And there's so many websites out there that were like, hey, pay us money, we'll help you find. The average person finds $2,000 in scholarships or whatever else, and they want $29.95 and we'll help. And then all these different websites out there are basically scams. They put you into some public database, and long story short, I avoid those industries, and I hope that you do as well. I don't want to just be a business person or somebody that makes money. I want to be a person of integrity and character, and I hope that you do as well. I don't want to empower the evil people of the world. What's in my coffee today? I feel like I'm going off on some crazy rants. Not crazy rants, just, yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Ethical rants. Life philosophy rants. Okay, Home Mortgage Center. That sounds like look how long that is. Super long domain name. Let's see if we can get back into actually finding something of use here. Okay, so this one's $12 domain name currently. I imagine it will be a cheap domain name all the way through auction. Ends in 4 or 5 days. So pretty much going to end in 5 days. HomeMortgageCenter.com. HomeMortgageCenter.com. Nobody's searching for that. Let's check SpyFu. I'm probably going to skip over this one. I like it because it sounds like a nice portal. It sounds like something where you can go to and find information about home mortgages, which home mortgages have a very high lead rate. So you make a lot of money when you have somebody come to a website and do a lead. What is this nonsense? Okay, I'm just going to skip over this. This is basically somebody's brand is the only search traffic for that. Moving on. Yeah, exactly. Soapbox. I'm soapboxing quite a bit today. It's like ridiculous. I hope that's okay. Well, anyhow, I assume if you're here, it's okay. Sorted web, no prime time. Okay. I'm going to give it one more page down, and then we're going to wrap things up. Maybe we'll get lucky, maybe we won't. AmazingOffice.com. I like it. AmazingOffice.com. Let's see if anybody's doing anything on Amazing Office. I don't freaking know what the heck I would do with it, because it's a subjective word. So Amazing Spider-Man box office, Amazing Grace box office, amazing. Yeah, that's okay. I'm not gonna mess with that. Wonderhouse Detect Bank Bears. And there we go. So there we have it. We've looked through some domain names, found some interesting stuff. Let's kind of review, actually. Let me go back and give us a little review on the domain names that we looked at this week. Amazing Office we got rid of. Home Mortgage Center, skipped over that one for the most part. I did not win, but here you go. See right here. Whoever bidder 7 is, there you go. But just back to what I was talking about earlier, you can see it over here. Bidder 4 is who I outbid, right? So I outbid bidder 4, and somebody else came in and bid that up. So that's why you kind of wait as long as possible. That extra 5 minutes, it wasn't bidder 4 coming back in and taking me out on that domain name there, which was bestmanicure.com. So let's see here. Buildingservice.com was building services, bindingservices.com. Good domain name for binding services near you. We talked about the local Legion 300 type of model, although actually that one's probably not going to be local. That's not what we talked about. We talked about a directory of maybe 10 to a dozen of them. $1,000 a month was what we looked at for that. Best Manicure, we looked at possibly getting you up to $3,000 a month. PrayerCards.com is a product. Darcy found that it was a cheap product, so you'd have to probably have some in to make money, because if you're just selling prayer cards, you're not going to make a whole lot. But if you're in the printing industry or possibly have some other services related to prayer cards, maybe a good one. Jobmatcher.com, which I just love as a domain name. I like it as far as a jobs board, as well as if you can go that extra mile, be the eHarmony of matching with jobs. Those are some of the jobs that we pulled up this week, as well as, let me see if I highlighted any others in my watch list. Finding services, fun search. The other ones are all gone. So, Job Matcher actually is. Okay, that's the same one. So yeah, we did mention that one a little bit last week. So, well, there you go. Those domains we talked about. What'd you like? What'd you not like? Did you find anything good that you are going to develop? Heading back over to chat to see what all we have happening. That's down. My current setup doesn't have chat up in front of me unless I click over. So. Yeah, see, well, thanks for hanging out. And so Dart, she's in the same boat. Like, misses the job because of talking to people. Yeah, like I got me and the guys in the office, and that's pretty much it. It's a little, which luckily are all good peeps, but we also need to get work done, and I can't, yeah. So anyhow, well, this is Domain to Profit. That's what you expect. Come back each week, and we find new opportunities each week in the form of expiring domain names. It's good stuff, right? It's good stuff. And as you saw, bestmanicure.com sold. And if you weren't watching live, you missed out on it, which is one of the best domain names we found today. So watching live is the way to do it, or go to Expiring Domains or expireddomains.net and grab some domain names yourself. Well, I'm Drew Walsh. I will see you next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be in Orlando doing this show remote. We never know what that looks like. But we're going to, I'll be doing it from remote, taking my daughter down to Disney at the end of the week, and we'll see how that goes. Disney says they're the happiest place on earth, but I don't know if I quite believe them. If you haven't liked the video, subscribe if you haven't already. That way you'll be notified if I do go live other times, which does happen, just hasn't happened in a while, but make sure you subscribe. I'm Drew Walsh, Domain to Profit. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you next week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care.